Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. So great to have you along today. Hey, measles hysteria is setting in. Here's my belief on what's happening. I think Big Pharma wants you to buy into this idea that the measles is going to take every life available and all your children, so you rush out and make sure you're up to date on your MMR vaccines. Well, we have some real eye-opening information about the MMR vaccines and the rate of the measles deaths by measles, the drop from 1900 to 1963 before the vaccine came on the scene. And so there's some really strong evidence that the vaccine had nothing to do with the eradication of measles in America today. So we're going to talk about that. I've also got really an expose on NBC. NBC doctoring a stock photo of a baby with measles and actually using Photoshop to put measles on the baby. This is about as low as it goes. So why would NBC do this? I used to work in local news. They love sensationalism. What does sensationalism do? It drives TV ratings. What does TV ratings do? When TV ratings are up, more eyeballs, they can charge money. Who is one of the main drivers of commercials in America today? That, of course, is Big Pharma. So as you can see, the whole thing, they are in cahoots. When you look at how this all lays out, and we've got a great doctor with us to go through it, we've got some great clips of some great experts who are going to literally dispel what the mainstream media is telling you today to give you the real truth. But before we get to that, I want to remind you this podcast is brought to you by the Wellness Company. This is one of their great kits. This was the first one that I got, and I have many of them. There are 8 prescription medications in here, including ivermectin, by the way, which is still in some parts of the country, if you can believe, is still hard to get. Ivermectin in here, which is literally turning out to be like a miracle drug. You've got other antivirals, antiparasitics, and antibiotics in here, which, folks, honestly, could save a life. If there's a natural disaster, there's a terrorist attack, you got a cyber attack and the drugstores closed down, which you just saw a little while ago, and you need prescription medications, what's in this kit could save you or your family's life. So if you think you're ready, but you don't have prescription medications, I would offer up the fact that you are not ready. So let's get it together. Go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. And I promise you, you and your family will be much safer off for it. All right, I want to bring in my guest today. Dr. Alex Diaz is with us. First time on the program. I'm excited about that. Dr. Diaz, it's great to have you on.
Hey, Grant, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, Doc. So this idea of the measles, how concerned should parents really be?
Well, let me tell you something that I think it's worth mentioning. I'm a pediatric allergist immunologist. And I was trained in Mexico, in Europe, and I've been working in the United States for several years. And I've been practicing medicine for over 32 years. And I haven't seen a single case in my life as a physician, as an allergist, pediatrician, and immunologist. So it's a rare disease, to be honest. It really is. Yes, it's highly contagious. It is. It's one of the most contagious diseases, of viral diseases around, but it's self-limited most of the time, and the mortality rate is extremely low. So like you were saying, this sensationalism and people just talking about that, just pushing different agendas, I really think this is getting very political.
Yeah, that seems to be, ever since COVID, we've seen, well, the media has been going downhill for a long time. But I think the American people have opened their eyes to what Big Pharma and the media are doing together. I'm going to give you an example of a situation with one of the children that was allegedly taken by the measles, meaning died from measles. But this child in New Mexico, apparently the patient was tested after they died and was showing no real symptoms of the measles, but yet the media is claiming the measles was the cause of death, which I don't think they can say for sure. This is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Brian Hooker talking about this New Mexico patient. Let me play this clip for you and then let you respond.
The headline lies. It calls us a measles death. And then they correct themselves in the next sentence, but at that point, that's too late. I mean, these headlines are deceptive and duplicitous. This was a test that was done during the autopsy of the patient. We don't know if it was an RT-PCR test, which would be appropriate for an RNA virus like measles, or an antigen test. An RT-PCR test, there are myriad false positives with RT-PCR, so we don't know if that's confirmed. It's just a big question mark, and they're peddling this as a measles death, as NBC News is doing, as the website The Hill was doing this morning. They chalked it up to a measles death, or said that it was a death caused by measles. This is not what happened, and I would I would really venture to guess that the patient didn't even have a measles rash. I mean, if they really had to test them for the measles, they were not presenting with measles when they passed away. So it's not even clear how this person died.
All right, so this is interesting, Doc, because to review this is the New Mexico child. They test after the child dies. It comes back positive for measles. We know there was another patient in Texas that allegedly dies of measles as well. So when you listen to what that doctor said, gave a lot of fancy words for certain tests, what do you make of his assessment?
Well, one of the things that I would like to mention is that it's true that it's highly contagious, but like I said, I haven't seen a case in 32 years. That means something, and I think the audience wants to hear things like this. The other thing that I would like to know, the main thing is that it's tragic. Any child who dies, it's tragic. As a father, as a pediatrician. But how can we know if it was measles? We don't know that. What kind of test? What was the condition of any patient? Primary immune disease, secondary immune disease. What was their immune system working like? And so we have so many questions. And what type of diagnosis test they use, and questions along that line. I think those are the right questions. And it's interesting to mention that, this is recently since Secretary Bobby Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has been into office. And we live in the border, and we haven't seen in Mexico a case in over 5 to 7 years. And all of a sudden, this outbreak of measles in the United States, specifically in a border state, which is Texas. So those are the questions that I will ask.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had Dr. Kelly Victory on last week, also with the Wellness Company. And I was making an assessment that I think some of this has to do with trying to put Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a box. So they're going to come out now with measles, and then they're going to try to make him say that you got to get the vaccine, when he really reiterated choice is everything on this. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the effectiveness of the vaccine. But before I do that, your thoughts on that. Is this a way for the left to try to pigeonhole, maybe separate RFK Jr. from the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again movement?
My humble opinion, and as a doctor, and I can tell you that I think there's an agenda. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because anytime you get into that, people don't know what to believe, and there's going to be a time where something's going to be really serious, and nobody's going to believe the government anymore. And this is almost the position that I've fallen into. I don't trust anything the government says anymore, and that's a really, really sad and quite possibly a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, of course, and I cannot imagine the level of pressure that Secretary Kennedy has been going through. He's a highly intelligent person. Great moral values, and he knows what he's talking about. But I cannot imagine the pressure he's going through.
All right, let's talk about the effectiveness of the vaccine, because as I start to peruse the writings and videos of people that I trust, it started to become very evident to me that the measles had a drastic decrease in deaths per 1,000 or deaths per 100,000 leading up to the vaccine. And all you have to just look at is the chart. I think the vaccine came out in 1963. Let me play this clip for you from a gentleman who's spelling out what he's seen here. Take a listen.
As we pointed out, prior to there ever being a vaccine, the death rate was 1 in 500,000. It came down. It used to be about 14, per 100,000. And then slowly but surely, it came all the way down, not because of a vaccine. Vaccine didn't achieve this. All on its own, dropped to 1 in 500,000 before there was ever a vaccine. Okay? That's the reality. This vaccine cannot take credit, it tries to say, look at what we did. It never did. This was what was called a trivial childhood illness prior to there ever being a vaccine. In fact, there was about half the scientists in the 1950s and 60s, as they were moving towards the measles vaccine, thought it was one of the world's worst ideas. In fact, real virologists and immunologists complained and said, look, this, as the news just said in our news montage, is one of the most infectious diseases on the planet. But that's not a problem because it doesn't really kill many people. And let me be perfectly clear. Every one of your grandparents for sure had the measles. Every grandparent around the world, everyone alive today is only alive because your grandparents survived the measles. All right? 7-something billion people are here, survivors of families that went through the measles. Okay.
Is he correct there, Doctor?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that I just love Del Bigtree. I was just recently with him in Washington, D.C. He's an amazing, he's eligible, and I couldn't agree more with him. He's telling exactly the truth. So just before the outcome of the vaccine in 1963, just around 58, 63, it was a decline on the mortality rate. And now, if we think about it, Grant, we have better access to health, we have better nutrition, better immune system, and so on and so forth. So, and just like Del Bigtree said, all of our parents and our grandparents and our great-great-grandparents, they had it. And it has been a worldwide infection with very low mortality rate. So we don't have to be worried about that. What we have to be worried is about to get better nutrition, to do exercise, to get sunlight, to get supplements, to be in better shape, and be worried about those things instead of being worried about that, that thing on the media.
It's interesting because I had the MMR shot. I was born in 1969. Heck, I think I still
Me
have.
too.
I got what? You were born in 69?
No, I was 70, but I have the shot as well.
And I had the other shot too. Left the mark on my arm. Was that the smallpox or was that polio? What?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis. Okay, so
BCG.
So I've got one of those. Look, I did fine. I don't I don't have autism. I don't have any of these things. And so many people got MMR. I never had a problem with it. Until now, all of a sudden, here I am 56 years old, and the MMR was just standard procedure. And then I'm looking at this, and I look at Del Bigtree, and I say, this went all the way down to 0 before the measles vaccine even came. Did we even need to be giving that vaccine all along?
It happened. So when they started developing the MMR vaccine back in the late 50s, and then they licensed in the beginning of the 1960s. It was one shot for a period of years, but then they started to see that there were some people, some cohort group, that they had measles, including one that they used to have one shot. So just around the late 1980s, they come with the second shot just to try to increase the immunity to measles. The thing is that where are those studies? What size of the population was? And nobody can answer those questions. And just right after the COVID operation, everything it's about pandemics, everything it's about bioterrorism, everything it's about vaccines and so on and so forth. And it's just mass formation.
Yeah,
mass formation. And then just people they don't know what to do. They don't trust science anymore. They don't trust doctors. So we're in a complicated situation right now.
So you're about my age. So I'm sure you grew up like me watching the Brady Bunch and shows like
Of course.
that, right? Of course. So this has been floating around online. It kind of gets to the heart of what has happened with society today and the ability for us to live in fear and really for us to buy into the fear porn that the media and Big Pharma and government pushes. But watch this little side-by-side of then and now for television in America. Okay, watch this.
What are you doing home from school? They sent me home. Measles.
It's either measles or a strange case of red freckles.
You have got a temperature. They told me 101.1. What's the record?
Never mind.
Oh, are you sure it's the measles?
Well, he certainly got all the symptoms. A slight temperature, a lot of dots, and a great big smile.
A great big smile.
No school for a few days.
Say hello to my dotted son for me. Tell him I'll bring him some comic books and I'll see you later, dear.
Okay, honey, bye. Boy, this is the life, isn't it?
Yeah. If you have to get sick, sure can't beat the measles.
That's right.
No medicine.
Inside or out. Like shots, I mean.
Don't even mention shots. Yeah.
Dad says I should go to school.
7 students confirmed with measles, 4 others possible.
Wow, they had to have been vaccinated. These moms never vaccinated their kids and lied about it. Vaccines are harmful.
You are endangering the health of every child in this city. Blue. No, it's turning blue. Call 911.
Only SVU next Wednesday at 9 Central.
All right, so Doc, I can't help it. I mean, the contrast to this is stark, isn't it?
Well, if you just think about it, Grant, you know, the Brady was pretty much on the 70s, the late 60s, early 70s. It was exactly when they were trying to push the agenda, and it just makes sense. I mean, but now that we have learned everything, I mean, a lot of things about the diseases and communicable diseases and so on, and just what happened, the COVID operation, man, we really have to, the hold by the horns and be responsible and do things that are good for health, like supplementation, good nutrition, exercise, going out to the sun and so on and so forth. These are the things that will keep us safe and healthy.
Yeah, they sure are. All right, I want to get to this story that now NBC was exposed. It was a little while ago, but exposed of using a doctored photo, basically a stock photo, photoshopping it to make the baby look like it has measles and then putting it on TV. That is a guy who used to work for NBC News for many years. Over 20 years, I worked in mainstream media before I started doing this type of work. That was a huge no-no under NBC guidelines. I don't know who had this bright idea to do this, so I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But before I do, Doc, I want to remind everybody about the wellness company kits. These things are great, all right? I'm telling you, folks, Dr. McCullough calls me a prepper. And I guess if being prepared makes me a prepper, fine. I don't have a bunker in my backyard. I didn't fill in my swimming pool with cement, but I am prepared. I got lots of ammunition. I got lots of food. I got water. I got power supply. And I have prescription medications. Again, this kit is awesome. This is the first one I think you should get. There's 8 prescription medications in here. Antivirals, antiparasitics, ivermectin is in here. I took amoxicillin. I knocked out my strep throat right away with that. And then, of course, I've got my favorite of favorites here. Let me open it. Is the field kit. Now, this is where Dr. McCullough says they made these specifically for people like me, a prepper, as Dr. McCullough says. But this is the kit. There's steroids in here. You have even more medications in here. There's an EpiPen in here. And quite frankly, I think that could be the one tool in this kit that really could save a life. Imagine your kid has a child over and they get stung by a bee and they're allergic. You got an EpiPen. That's going to save a life instantly. How many people have one of those at home, right? So anyway, this is the field kit, waterproof. It's in a cool box. This is why I love the wellness company, because they come up with really cool products like this. So again, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off and get yourself prepared, okay? twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. You can go to that website as well. Doc, before we talk about NBC, The wellness company now has this program for the bird flu, which is we're starting to see that mutate a bit to give free kits with prescription medications in to farmers out there that meet certain criteria. And I urge people to go to the website and check that out, twc.health/grant. But this is a great program. It's basically getting to farmers before the government does.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, the wellness company is giving away to frontline farmers this amazing kit for free that has the azithromycin, oseltamivir, iodine, povidone, and I think it's a fantastic tool, life-saving medications.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what a great thing. I mean, the wellness company, they're all about community. They're all about keeping people safe. And this goes for the farmers, too. So they are not forgotten. All right. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT if you're buying the kits for 10% off. If you're a farmer and want to apply for one of these kits, go to the website. You can do that there as well. All right, doctor, I told you about this this NBC story. I'm going to play an entire clip. It's RFK Jr. talking about it. And then it's two friends of mine that are exposing NBC with this. So let me play this for you, let you watch, and then we'll respond on the other side.
How many of you have heard the government networks, every single network, say that the death rate for measles is 1 in 1,000? Right. CDC told them that. CDC's own data say it's 1 in 10,000 people who have measles and 1 in 500,000 Americans. That's what CDC's data says. But that's not what you hear from the networks. What you hear from the networks is misinformation. Any of you who watched NBC the other night saw Lester Holt, and they're all of these news shows have become advertisements, and they're all part of this orchestrated frenzy. We're terrified of measles, and you got to get the vaccines, and we got to pass the mandate. And Lester Holt is sponsored by Merck, which makes that vaccine. And Lester Holt showed a frightening picture on his show of a baby that was afflicted with these terrible measles bumps. It turns out it was fake. He had to fake it. He's never apologized. NBC has never apologized. That is misinformation. And Lester Holt is sitting there saying we've got to shut down this misinformation about vaccines while he is the primary promoter of that information.
That's right. While they accuse us of being part of the disinformation dozen, they are the real disinformation spreaders. The photo on the top is the royalty-free stock photo that you can purchase on Dreamstime.
And here's the same photo, but it's been edited in Photoshop to add the measles splotches. There's no doubt, is there? With splotches, without splotches. Here's a screenshot of the purchase page where NBC apparently found the photo before they decided to doctor it up. How dishonest. As mathematicians used to say when they proved a theorem, QED, quod erat demonstratum. In other words, we caught you, NBC. You are the real fake news.
You know, it's really sad. It's also maddening, Doc, because this is flat out deceit. You know, whether kids have measles or not, you can't make fake pictures on a news program. It's one thing to do it in Hollywood, but I think the news today is becoming more and more like Hollywood than it is anything about journalism.
Well, that's one thing. And the other thing, Grant, is that any average pediatrician worldwide can recognize that specific picture that's not the typical maculopapular rash of measles. So even the picture was not very well taken.
So let me ask you. Let me see if I can pull this. Yeah, here we go. This picture back up and freeze it. Tell me why, Doc, that this picture, you as someone who specializes in this, can tell you right away it's not real.
Well, to be honest, I cannot tell if it's real or not because I'm not an expert on photographs or things like that or images. But that spotting and that rash that I'm looking at right now, it's not the typical maculopapular rash of measles. It's completely different. So that will be my 2 cents.
All right. So, and that's from, most doctors are probably going to be able to tell that. And apparently they didn't have a doctor try to work their faux photo for them. But really, in the end, how are people supposed to trust the media if they're getting stories like this?
It's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of confusion. And just like I said, just right up after the COVID operation, there's a lot of misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
There sure is. I'm going to play another doctor for you. This is him also talking about the decrease in the number of measles leading up to the release of the measles vaccine. This situation where we talked about so many going down to virtually zero before they released the vaccine. He has some reasoning as to why he thinks the number of deaths decreased. This is him on Tucker Carlson.
Public health authorities should take credit for the decline in measles deaths in America. They should. But they should take credit in the following way. Between the year 1900, this is all on the CDC website, what I'm about to tell you, and the year 1960, 61, 62, the years before the first measles vaccine in America, 1963, the mortality rate for measles declined by over 98%. Yes, by over 98%. That is, you can just go pull up the mortality data on the CDC website. This is uncontroversial. It's just data, what I just said. Some people get emotional about it, but it's just data, what I just said.
Why would they get emotional?
Well, for the reasons we just discussed. That decline had nothing to do with vaccines. You know how I know? There was no measles vaccine. That's how I know.
What caused that decline?
I think that in part it's the public health health authorities should take a lot of credit for that.
Nutrition, sanitation.
Better sanitation, clean water, getting sewage running out of the streets. Right. All of these things, initiatives to make sure that there's natural light. Like, remember all the tenement buildings?
Yes.
All these initiatives, even basic things like quarantine. Oh, if you're sick, not the kind of forced kind of stay at home stuff that we're talking about. Just if you're sick, hey, maybe you should stay at home in bed.
Do you agree with him, doctor?
100%.
Yeah. And so I guess those health initiatives clearly from 1900 to 1963 improved. We still have, in many respects, a long way to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then on the other side of the token, supplementation with vitamin A, adequate supplementation and just good nutrition and simple things, just common sense.
All right. Before I let you go, I want to play one more clip from Dale Bigtree, who basically laid out the situation with the outbreak in 2014 of measles in California at Disneyland. I don't know if everybody out there remembers this story. I actually do. They really got blown out at Disneyland. There was an outbreak of measles. I think it was 131 cases. They did some research on who was vaccinated, who wasn't, and what that meant. You didn't get any of this leading up till a final report that came out, and the final report nobody wanted to report on because it totally debunked everything the networks were telling us before about just how dangerous this really was. So let me play this clip, and then I'll let you get back to work because I know you're a busy guy. But this is what we're talking about here.
Here's what we learned about the case in Disneyland. Vaccination status of measles outbreak cases. This is what we found out. Of the 25 of the 82 cases had immunization status verified, meaning of them, 82 of the cases, we knew their immunization status. 31% of them were vaccinated. 12% had 1 dose, 16% had 2 doses, and 2% had 3 doses. That means 31% of the cases that were in the group that knew what their status was, they had vaccine failure. The vaccine didn't work. Wait a minute, that's not 97% effective. I was told 97% effective. 31% failure. It gets worse, really, because just like they're saying with Texas, and then there's the group of unknown. The unknown status. We don't know if they're vaccinated. We can't figure it out. We don't know how to do any research. We don't know how to ask the person, where were you born? How old were you? What were your doctors? Is your mom around? Can we figure it out? They can't figure it out. So there was 131 cases that they did not have the records, but of those, 48 of them said they were adults, and 20 of them self-reported as saying, I know that I got my MMR vaccines, but they didn't count that. You weren't allowed to just say it. And you have to imagine if it's adults, if you're an adult, 97% of this country has gotten the vaccine, you probably got it. So that 38% has to tag on to here. Now, maybe not all of them. Maybe it's not 60% vaccine failure. But let's say there's a pretty good chance we're looking at 50% of the cases happen to vaccinated individuals. But it gets even worse. Recommendations for measles testing. Well, they tested the genotypes, which is what we haven't done in Texas yet. I know one of the stories that's out there is that the mass vaccination program that just happened in certain counties in Texas caused the outbreak. Maybe it did. I don't know. That's not what we're here to prove today. But is it possible? It certainly happened in Disneyland, because 30% of the cases that happened, of all that hysteria, it was an unvaccinated person that left the country. Was it? Because 30% of the cases had vaccine strain. It says right here, 31 genotype A vaccine strain from recently vaccinated persons with febrile rash and illness. They got it from the vaccine program. So 50% were vaccinated and it failed. 30% got the vaccine strain from the vaccine program. Where are we left now? How good is this program? How effective is this vaccine?
You want to answer his question, Doc?
Wow, he's Del. He's fantastic. He just said it right. That's exactly what happened, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And this is something that we have to do something about this.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, it's so great to talk to you, and congratulations on your association with the Wellness Company. We love them. They've been such great supporters of this program, and it was great having you on today to talk about this. Try to bring some truth to the masses that aren't getting it from the mainstream media and really have to turn to these alternative media outlets. But again, Dr. Alex Diaz, we're so grateful for you coming on the program, and thank you.
Grant, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, let me remind you as well, don't forget about the Wellness Company. I say there's a couple reasons why you need to buy these kits. One is because it may save a life. Yours, one of your family members, maybe a friend that comes over to visit. The other is I truly believe in supporting companies that support our beliefs and causes. This is called a parallel economy. And so I love the support of the Wellness Company because they are on the front lines fighting for truth. There are not a lot of companies out there doing that like the Wellness Company is. So again, these are the kits I'm talking about. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. There's all kinds of, the spike support is great. Don't forget the immune mist that Dr. McCullough talked about a couple weeks ago that really is helping people from getting sick, whether it's the flu or COVID or whatever it might be. All of these products on the Wellness Company's website are fabulous. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off, and you're not going to regret it. I promise you. All right, that's going to do it for us. Stinchfield's Army rolls, folks. I will see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for watching, everybody.